The issue of sex trafficking is one that's both underground and right before our eyes. Much of the buying and selling happens online, but a local nonprofit says much of the recruiting happens at malls and town squares, much like Westlake Park. Tonight, about 50 people came together to take a moment of silence for victims and survivors of trafficking. Stolen Youth, the nonprofit that organized the event, calls the event a crash course for people unaware of what's happening in the community. The Vigil featured stories from survivors of sex trafficking.
So I was 18 when I got into the life, and I thought I would do it for 2 weeks. And it was more of a survival, a means for survival. My intention was to do it for 2 weeks to pick myself up. And it turned into 22 years.
In recent years, law enforcement has shifted their focus on buyers of sex rather than prosecuting minors. Stolen Youth says the data for sex trafficking is difficult to come by, but the youngest person they've seen trafficked is 11 years old.
We know it's happening. So when you look at the data from the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, for example, we know that when they put an ad online for a 15-year-old girl, in 2 hours, they got hundreds of responses.
Executive Director Nicole DiCario says more homeless youth may become vulnerable to traffickers, as homelessness is a growing issue in the community. Plus, she says the internet, specifically classified sites like Backpage.com, is having a huge impact on how traffickers do business, making the sale of sex even more convenient for customers. As tonight's vigil finishes up, we should note there is an ongoing lawsuit against Backpage.com. That case will go to trial in October. In Seattle, I'm Lily Tan, King 5 News.
The rule is no employee can do anything that's visibly religious in nature, and that's what they said. If you do anything that's visibly religious, then we're going to fire you. Whether, so it became about, doesn't matter if there's people around you or not, it's whether you do anything that is visibly religious.